guys, so today we're going to talk about scissors or shears. I think you call them shears in America. Don't really want to get into that debate, but we're going to talk about scissors and buying and maintaining and using scissors. This is going to be part one of a series that I'm going to do of sort of DIY cutting and like a first part of a DIY series. So, you know, fitting to be the first part, we figured we'd talk about the tool that you'll be using quite a lot of, because I really wouldn't recommend using your kitchen scissors. You know, they might be alright for cutting bacon, but probably not your hair. So first things first, when you're looking at scissors, there's just like so much variety. There's like, you know, size, handle shape, material, all sorts. I mean, price varies massively, but probably the big worries are the handle shape for starters. So we'll talk about that for a little bit. You can get straight handles and you can get offset handles. Honestly, you know, offset handles are all the vogue now. Straight handles are kind of not really about so much. There's not so much option, so you probably won't be buying straight handles anyway. I don't actually have any to show you, but they're not so. It's actually more difficult to find a pair of straight shears or scissors if you're buying than it is offset. So we'll talk about offset because that's what you'll probably end up with. All offset handles mean is that the finger ring is straight in line with the blade and the thumb ring's just slightly below that, and it's just about ergonomics and about keeping your wrist and elbow in a more comfortable position when you're cutting. It's not really essential, but that explains that. I wouldn't worry about it too much. And then the next thing is size. Now they come in all different sizes. These are 525, 575 and 6. Really, I would say if you're just going to get the one pair just for cutting your hair at home, say like DIY cutting, you probably want to aim for like a 5.5 inch, somewhere around there, like 5.5 inches. That's kind of like, you know, it's not big but it's not small. It's kind of like an all-rounder of sorts. So you'll probably be right with a 5.5 inch scissor. Now the next thing is price. They vary massively. I mean, these ones are incredibly cheap. They probably cost about 15 or 20 pounds. These ones about 125 pounds, and these ones were about 350 pounds, and that just shows how much variation there can be. They go up and up and up. You know, I say you can get scissors for like 1,000. So really, probably what you want to be going for. I mean, it's up to you. Make up your mind. I know how rich you are, but probably somewhere between these two. You know, between like 20 and 120, because I mean, this is a bit cheap, this is probably a bit higher. Now the reason I say this is a bit cheap is because the big difference between scissors, once you sort of step up to a different price range, is the way they're manufactured. Now these ones are cheap and they've got serrated edges. So what that means is they have like a lot of little teeth all along the edge of the blade, which actually may be helpful. Some people say they're good for beginners because when you cut the hair, they'll grip the hair and it won't let the hair slide. However, the big problem is once they're blunt, they can't be sharpened and they're basically trash, and you know, thrown away 20 quid or whatever you paid for them. Whereas if you get sort of the next ones up, next sort of price step up, you're going to start looking then into like convex blades, which are sort of like two razor blades just shearing off a piece of hair basically, and those you can get sharpened, and they have no teeth. They're just like, yeah, sharpened to be like razors. So they, like, over time you're going to get more value out of that. Now the thing is that you're not going to start seeing that until probably around the 40-50 pound price range, I think. I mean, that's sort of a bit of a guess, but an educated guess. I know that there's a brand called Jaguar that makes scissors around that kind of price range, which do convex blades, which, you know, you might want to look into. I've never used them, but they might be something you might want to look at. Yeah, I would personally skip the kind of serrated edges if I was you, but you know, that's just my thing. The next thing up is like Japanese steel and other steel, and made in Japan, and Japanese steel is actually a different thing. Made in Japan, a lot of scissors are made in sort of like sort of factories with like Japanese steel printed on them, but that doesn't actually mean that they're, you know, handmade in Japan, which is the sort of the image they're trying to get across. But that's kind of getting a bit too far out, and we don't need to worry. Basically, all you need to know is like you're going to get stainless steel ones in the cheap, you're going to get, you know, made in Japanese steel in the middle, and you're going to get made in Japan with the expensive. I wouldn't worry about it too much. You know, the bigger worry for you is the size. Being, you know, you want a gun probably for a 5.5, and the type of the blade, you probably want a gun for an actual kind of razor edge rather than a straight edge, because I say, if you want to do it on the cheap, straight edges are fine, but you're going to end up chucking them away. So it's up to you. You know, if you think you want to, if you're going to think you're going to be cutting your hair more than once every 6 months, you might want to look at, say, stepping up to about the sort of 40, 50, 60 pound price range and going for something that you can sharpen for a fiver and then reuse. That's up to you, obviously. Now, that's kind of that out the way. There's a lot of information. There's so much information, actually. I'm trying to just talk quite fast and just talk through the basics, because you don't really need too much information. I'm just going to overload and probably getting things wrong as well. So that's kind of that. Now, using scissors, it's going to sound really stupid, but this is a DIY series, and I'm, you know, hopefully want this to go out to non-stylists, really, you know, because I appreciate that, you know, as a stylist, I want everyone to come to the salon, but, you know, salon's not everyone's bag. So, you know, some people don't like it, some people are intimidated, some people just like messing around at home, and that's fair play, because, you know, it's pretty much how I got into it. It's just like, you know, chopping my own hair off at home, and you know, that's cool. So I'm going to start like from scratch, and using scissors sounds ridiculous, but every friend of mine will pick up my scissors, and every friend of mine will pick them up and hold them wrong. What you want to be doing is this finger, because they'll always go for the middle finger or this finger. I don't know the names of the fingers. This one, pointing finger, and they'll use them with that, and that's not the finger you need. You need this. It's this finger and your thumb, and that goes in obviously there and there. Now, the way I used to, when I first got my scissors, the way I got comfortable with them was I'd hold them up this way and then put my thumb in, and then I'd literally sit there watching films and just doing this action with my hand, just to get, because you don't want this part of your hand to move, you only want your thumb to move. That's to help you cut in a straight line. You only want that action going, so you only want your thumb to be the one cutting. Now, I used to put my whole thumb in as well when I first got them, and was like chonk, chonk, chonk. But actually, over time, you know, very quickly realise that you don't need that. And I only use the tiny corner of my thumb, and it just sort of rolls around the edge of that and just pivots it enough to give it that kind of action. The reason for holding them this way up is so that when you hold them that way up, the idea is that they don't move from there to there. You know, they don't hold them there and they flop down or whatever. And that's just, it just helps you work out the kind of comfort and the way you need to be holding your hand, especially your little finger on the rest, to keep that tension there, so that when you cut, you can, you know, this top half of your hand is not going to move, it's only going to be your thumb. But you know, that's kind of the action you want to be practicing, really. You know, just moving your thumb to cut in a straight line. And the idea is that, you know, if you're using this finger or this finger or even this finger, but you're using your whole hand, you're not going to cut a straight line like this. You know, you need to be, you want to be that. And that's another way of practicing as well. Put my hand out, put the blade on the hand there, and then just, and that just supports it. And it does hurt your hand a little bit when you first start doing it, but it's just so you can get the hang of just moving that thumb and keeping the rest of your hand as straight as possible, and that just helps you cut a straight line. So that's how you want to be using scissors. So now we're talking about maintenance, because obviously I want to crack on this. Don't want this video to be too long. It doesn't need to be. I'm just going to waffle otherwise. You'll get scissor oil. You can get scissor oil. With more expensive scissors, you'll get one that come with it. With the cheap scissors, maybe not. But it's only like a few quid for like a little pot of it, and you don't need it very often. Just open your scissors like this, and then you just dab like 1 or 2 little dots on the inside of that joint there, sort of like here and here, and then you close the scissor and just give it a few like twists, and then that's it. You just whack it away, and that'll just keep that bearing like nice and decent, and not wear it down. So that's pretty much maintenance. Now the other thing is, nearly all scissors, even the cheaper ones like these ones, they come with a flathead tension screw there, and that tension screw just how tight the blades are going to be. Now you'll get the feel of this over time. Like you know, you'll get to pick up and you just like open and close them once, and you'll realise if they're too tight or too loose. If they're too loose, the hair's going to bend. If they're too tight, you're going to crunch the blades together and just wear them away and chip them and all sorts. So there's a general rule of thumb with this, which is, say, you'll get the hang of it and you'll be able to pick them up and go, oh, that's too loose, that's too tight. But the general rule of thumb at start is that you open the scissor, hold the scissor, you open it so that the blades are 12 and 3 o'clock, so like here and here, and then you just let go, and they should stop at 1 o'clock. And if they stop at 1 o'clock, that's the general rule of thumb, that's the correct tension and that's the correct tightness. Now these ones come with a key. These ones come with a key, and this is just a flathead, and you just loosen or tighten as you need to. Some come with like a twisty kind of button here that's sort of a cog, serrated cog that you can kind of grip and just twist. It's another way that they'll click, like they'll click up, tension, or like ratchet up and down. Same difference. It's all just the same. It's just how tight or loose you want it, and you'll find that you only have to do it a tiny bit, and it'll change to what you want. But yeah, you'll get that feel of that after you use them a little while. You'll be able to, I can pick my scissors up and be like, no, that's they're too loose, without really even doing anything. But the general rule of thumb is 12 and 3, let go, should stop around about 1 o'clock, and that's kind of fine. You'll find they'll loosen up over time. Just give them a little tighten when they need. It's not very often, but that's basically scissor maintenance. And that's pretty much it. That's scissors. It was a bit rushed. It was a bit hammered through. Probably to recap, if you're looking to cut your own hair at home or cut friends' hair, things like that, you probably want to start out with like a 5.5 offset, and then if you can't afford it or you don't want to, whatever, just cheap ones are fine with serrated edges. But obviously bear in mind you're probably going to be chucking those away. If you can sort of punt for a little bit more, sort of maybe around the £50–60 range, you're probably going to start looking at then like blades that you can sharpen and they'll last a little longer. So that's pretty much it for scissors. That's that. And then this DIY series, this is the first part, but we're going to move on to cutting as soon as possible. I'm going to start sort of looking at like cutting your own layers, or cutting friends' layers, things like that, and like one-length trims, things like that. Quite simple sort of. I mean, layers is not a haircut, but quite simple techniques which people, I've looked up before and seen people that there's a lot of tutorials to cut your own layers, and some of them just make me want to stab my eyes out, like the kind of ponytail and chop thing, like, oh my lord, like, and actually cutting your own layers is not that difficult. So that's what we're going to kind of move on to next. So if you want to start DIY hairdressing at home or your mates, or you just recapping as a level 2 or something, this is what we're going to move on to as soon as possible. So that's scissors, and then come back as and when videos are up for actual cutting, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, cheers.